Who's the guy? Training camp continues for BYU football team today, day 10 specifically, with a close scrimmage coming up tomorrow. The three-way quarterback race continues. McKay Hillstead, Trayson Bourguet, Bear Bachmeier, as mentioned, splitting reps as to who the starter should be. Last week, offensive coordinator ARod detailed why it'll take some time to figure out who QB1 is.
There's no deadline, but the sooner the better. You know, I mean, I would prefer not to be naming a starter on game day, you know, but you have to let it play out a little bit too. If you rush it, then you can create some other issues as well. So we need to let them compete for a little while. I know you guys are going to keep asking me every time, but I have to let them compete for a little while so we gather enough information to make a good decision.
What is a little while? Brian, when should BYU name a starter, at least internally? Because the expectation is they won't announce it externally. We'll just see that guy run out on game day.
Yeah, I think yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yesteryear, yeah. It's tough. I think as long as they have put each quarterback in, I would say, game time situations, and
define that in practice. What does that look like?
So a team situation is like first team defense versus second team offense, right? And it could be situational. So it could be third and long, third and short. It could be goal line, red zone, whatever the case is.
11 on 11, full pads.
11 on 11, full pads.
There's a rush. They're not tackling that guy, but
they should tackle.
Not
the quarterback, though.
That's what I'm talking about.
The quarterback, yeah. And then obviously, like you said, the scrimmage tomorrow, being in the stadium, so getting the guys in game, like not only situations, like situationally on the field, but also environment and atmosphere as well, because there's players that are practice players. We call them like the All-American, you know.
There's one that just came to mind. I'm going to keep that to myself.
First team All-American, you know, practice players. But then there's also gamers. Like me, I was a gamer. I was never a practice guy. I remember the last scrimmage that we had, I was third on the depth chart, right?
Going into 09?
Going into 09, I was third on the depth chart.
Into the Oklahoma game.
Into the Oklahoma game. And I remember I got a call from my trainer, and he was like, yo, congratulations. I'm like, congratulations what? And he goes, Bronco just named you the starter. And I was like, I was shocked. I had no idea. Then my mom called. Right when on the phone, I was
when
like,
mom calls, you know it's real.
I was like, Coach, let me call you back. And she goes, I'm so proud of you. Ah! So when I went back and was talking to my trainer about it, he said, Bronco said that you were the most game ready out of everybody. But during, you know, practice reps and certain situations where it's individuals or 7-on-7, I was getting cooked. Like my skin, I was, you know what I mean? Like, but when I got into that stadium or when I got into those game-like situations, I just turned it on. I was a whole nother player. And so at the end of the day, that's what you want. And that's what I mean by that is making sure that they have enough film on these guys in these situations, but making sure it's even. Because what also hurt me, why I stayed third on the depth chart for so long, is because I was going with the threes, right? Like having Andrew Rich, the first team safety, and Jordan Pendleton, right? Absolute phenomenal guys. It made my life easy. When I got it in with the third string, everybody sucked. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody was horrible.
Quite the same.
And on top of that, how we had it structured, which I know they're not gonna do this now, but first team got 3 reps. The second team defense got 2 reps, and the third string got 1 rep, and that's how.
Just 1 rep.
Just one.
There's a lot on the line.
Dude, I would come off. I'm not lying to you. I would come off practice, and I wouldn't even shower. That's how clean I was. I had no grass.
You didn't even sweat?
No. I was chilling for a while. You know
Your jersey was too clean.
Man, I had no grass stains.
But then on game day, Brian Logan came out, which was awesome. Yeah. Okay, I agree with you that as soon as possible, like ARod said and you just said, yes. But realistically, they got to let them cook for a minute.
Yeah.
So I would say no later than the 20th to me. If it takes that long, and I hope it doesn't, that you give that guy at least 10 days to be the guy, get all the first team reps, have 10 days to prep for that first game. I know it's an FCS opponent in Portland State, but the whole team has to rally around that guy.
Yeah.
And by the way, if it's close among the 3, go with Bear Bachmeier because he's a freshman and you could ride him for a couple of years in theory. The more we go through this and there's not enough talk of, wow, Hillstead this or wow, Bourguet that, it increasingly, to me, becomes Bachmeier's job to lose. it sounds like all three are making plays, and frankly, that's not good for Hillstead and Bourget.
Yeah.
Those guys need to use their experience of having played college football already and started games at other schools to where, oh, Hillstead's got the nod right now because experience, XYZ, play, his legs. Bourget fits the mold, plug and play. Like, we're not hearing that either of those two guys are making more plays than Bear. If they do not, I will not be shocked if Bear Bachmeier is the first true freshman starting quarterback in BYU history come August 30th.
You know what I like? I like that take. I don't know. So I talked to Max Hall about this a couple weeks ago, and I said, Max, my plan would be internally as a staff that if they're all equal, right, on equal footing, going into the first couple of games, because you have an opportunity to not play some good opponents, right? I was trying to be political. You're playing teams that are horrible, right? And
I wouldn't say Stanford's horrible. That's a team that if you don't show up, you could lose to. East Carolina, that's a long road trip. That's a team that beat BYU in the previous.
Those are all winnable games
for sure.
I think East Carolina will be a tougher challenge for the travel
than Stanford.
Yeah.
Stanford, there's some emotion there. Should it be Bear Bachmeier as well?
Yeah. So I would go into those games saying, okay, if they're all on even, playing field, they have a short leash, but we won't mention this to them. Like Max was like, yeah, you could do that, but you don't want.
If it's Bear, it's not short because you're building with the freshmen.
Yeah, Well, but
if to me, if it's McKay or Trayson, it's you give them the opportunity, but you know that you have a second and third string that were right there.
You make a good point. I was going to say, like anywhere else outside of BYU, no, because you can lose your job at any moment, right? You got to win now. That's not really Kalani's style or the program style, right? It takes a lot for you to get fired from losing, right? I'm just saying. In most situations, I want to win now, so I'm going to give whoever I name the starter the first couple of games to see what it's like, and then if I need to make that switch, I'll go ahead and do that because not only are situational and team like scrimmage those type of reps matter, but game reps actually matter because now the quarterback's getting hit, right? So you can't really truly see what a quarterback is going to look like and feel like when they get hit. Everybody's an All-American and a 7-on-7 All-Star champ, shout out Jake Heaps. But
Trayson Bourget was a really good 7-on-7.
But when you get into the line of fire and those bullets, what type of player are you going to be?
I would argue that Bear Bachmeier will do the hitting too. He wears 47 because he was a running back and middle linebacker until 8th grade. That's why he wears 47, which is crazy. Yeah. Brandon Doman had a similar idea to you late last week when we said, when does BYU need to name a starter?
Monday. I wouldn't wait past Monday.
Could they realistically do that? Could they figure it out by Monday? That feels fast.
Yes. You can't wait. They won't tell anybody. They'll start, considering who the backup's going to be and how to manage the third string quarterback and so on and so forth. But they can't wait much past Monday of next week because there's not enough reps. You just don't have enough reps.
Now, that was referring to the Monday that we just had. 4 days ago. And so they have not named the starter internally, is my understanding. They're still splitting the reps among those three. I do wonder if they would whittle it down to two guys for a week, Brian. Or do you think they'll let all three cook and then we name the one guy?
I think the one guy.
Go with three, give them enough. If that's the case, I think they will still go through next week.
Yep.
I don't think they've had enough time given what Aaron Roderick told us, hey, I need to give them a chance. Mm-hmm. And when you're splitting with three, which is super unique, the last time I can remember a true three-man race was back in 2007 when Max Hall, Brendan Gaskins, and Cade Cooper battled in spring. Max was named the starter out of spring. Brendan stayed on the squad. He was the backup. And then Cade Cooper transferred after that. This is unique. Obviously, when you have a starting quarterback leave in July, you have to do something unique given that situation. So we'll see when they name him. I say no later than the 20th. Obviously, earlier is better, but no later than that.
I would wonder, I would do it to two, right? And then see what that.
They're getting more reps.
Yeah, they're getting
That's
more
why
reps.
I present that.
But also from a mental standpoint, I went like, does that turn on the intensity that much more, right? Because now I had this idea. I'm one step closer to the goal as far as becoming a starter. So, am I going to take everything, my preparation, my hard work, my skill? Am I going to take my game to that next level that's going to separate me? I don't know. Sometimes players and athletes are motivated in that way. More importantly, it's getting more of those reps, man. It's just those situational type reps. Then you also have to understand that when you get those reps, you have a better feel for your receivers and the chemistry. So right now, because they may not get those reps based off of where they're at, they got to stay after practice and get those reps. But when you do that to try to get on the same page and grow that chemistry, you're doing it against air. Because most corners are like, man, I'm out. I'm going.
And this just in, Maury Bamba greater than air. Evan Johnson, Trey Alexander, Jaden Dunlap, Jonathan Cabot. These guys are all better than air.
Right.
You need to actually go against a pass rush.
Yeah,
you need to feel the pressure of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. All right, so topic number 2, regression to the mean in a bad way. This is by ESPN. They came out with a couple different tiers and have BYU in tier 8, which is
tier 8
in a bad way.
What?
And when you look at some of the close wins that BYU had, they end up being 7-1, 6-1, and the metrics that they
4-2 in one score games.
Yeah, and in one score game. Sorry. And what they're trying to say is, in those games that they were winning,
they were lucky in that.
They were lucky, right? They were lucky, and so. They're saying, well, if you don't take away that luck, and they potentially lose the game. So,
thank you, Captain Obvious.
So, which I hate talking about this. I hate saying, oh, they were lucky. Like, were they lucky, or is it still?
They were lucky in some, but don't you create?
Were they?
Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Roberto Clemente.
Yeah.
Don't you create your own luck sometimes?
Yes. I like that right there. That statement. As I created this luck. I created this success, right?
Was BYU lucky to get 22 picks? Yeah, the quarterback has to throw you some balls. But you have to be in position. You have to have guys that actually catch the ball. So the question here is, what does BYU have to do to prove they haven't regressed? What's not regression? I would argue that regression would be 7-5 or fewer wins.
7-5?
7-5 or worse. So if you go 8-4, given the quarterback situation, I think you maintained. That was a good season. We had this quarterback. Your face says it all. You don't agree, but let me cook for a second. Given the quarterback situation in a Power 4 league, I think 8-4, especially if it's a freshman, if it is Bear Bachmeier, or it's a new guy in McKay or Trayson. McKay's a redshirt sophomore, by the way. He's a third-year guy in college. He's still young.
Yeah.
Trayson is the older guy. He's a fourth-year redshirt senior. That 8-4 probably would be good enough. 9-3 probably is like, okay, if you go 9-3, that means you're going 3-0 in league and 6-2 in the Big 12. That feels pretty aggressive for a new quarterback like that. So I'm kind of thinking, listen, if BYU goes 4-2 in one-score games again, if they get at least 22 picks, how about 7 non-offensive touchdowns? 5 of which were kick or punt returns.
That helps.
And 2 game-winning kicks from Will Farron. That all sounds pretty good. Yeah. That was some good stuff. That was some. You could argue, well, was it clutch or was it luck? It was both. If all of that doesn't happen, it's difficult to kind of go 9-3 plus. Yeah. So that's why I'm thinking 8-4, given the quarterback situation. That would be kind of, you've maintained the standard of, we were a good team. We weren't upper echelon like we wanted. But let's be honest, when you lose a fifth-year senior quarterback, it's tough to replace that experience.
I would say 10 wins. I would say
they
10.
have to do it again.
I would say
they have to go 10 in the regular season.
When you think about Oklahoma State, like in the old Big 12.
AKA prior to last year.
Right.
They were winning 10 all the time.
9, 10, right? Yeah. Like 9 was like a bad.
Everyone acts like they're this terrible program. They had one bad year.
Right.
One.
Exactly.
They were unbelievable before that.
And so to me, that like Oklahoma State has always been a contender when it comes to championship, right?
This was Oklahoma's league.
Yep.
Texas acted like it was theirs. They didn't actually do that much. This was Oklahoma's league. They're gone. There's a vacuum of power. Who's it going to be?
Right.
Arizona State stepped into that spotlight.
And this is the thing with the consistency over like Alabama, the Georgias of the world, like these top tier programs. You are expected conference championship, 10 games, double win, seasons. And that consistency is what gets you at that place where people say, yeah, you're legit. Because last year, let's say they go 8-4. They'll be like, well, see, we knew they sucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just had one good year.
No one sucks at 8-4. I'm sorry.
Well,
no.
Well, when it comes to these tiers, right, of how we see certain programs, the more consistent you
for
can
Alabama
be,
and Georgia, yes. 8-4, they had a bad year.
I mean, do we?
Given the
do we want to be the best, or we just want to show up and participate? I'm just saying,
I don't know that BYU is competing to actually, realistically, to be at the Alabama-Georgia level.
I think
in the future they hope to be in that space now and then, but what you really want is to be Oklahoma State, what they were. We win 10 games, we're competing for Big 12 titles, we're going to New Year's Six occasionally. You got to get there first. You can't just suddenly show up and think you're Georgia or Alabama. BYU hasn't made a Big 12 title game yet. It's only been 2 years. The moment they start to get into one, you get in one every couple of years, every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But you're on the verge. That's the hope. A regression to the mean, yes. If you go 7-5 this year, oh, man.
It's bad.
That'd be tough.
What I mean is
you're breaking in a new quarterback.
There's levels to this.
For sure. Apparently, there's at least 8. And BYU's in tier 8 on this ESPN article.
When you watch like a BYU versus a Colorado game, right, in the bowl game. Maybe that's a bad example because they got whooped.
That was a great example. I thought it was awesome.
But then you watch a Georgia play or an Oregon play, and you're like, wow. It's like the speed of the game is faster. Everybody is taller, bigger, stronger. Now BYU's catching up.
They're recruiting to that level.
Yes,
they're getting better.
They're catching up. And so what I'm talking about as far as that consistency in the tier that BYU is in, right? Because clearly, like you said, they're not in that tier of the Georgias and Alabamas.
Right. They hope to be one day.
Yes.
But you can't skip a step. You have to
win
a Big 12 title before you can say you're competing for a national title.
You still have to be the top of your tier, though. And winning right now, last year was the bar to do that, right? Like it
can be done. It showed us it can be done in a Power 4 league, which was great.
It was done in G5 with Mountain West. How many 10-win seasons that did?
Right, but that doesn't. That's
in that tier. Yes.
Right? Now that you're
yes.
here, the next step is handle success.
Yes.
But this quarterback situation has thrown this season, hopefully not, for a much bigger challenge than we anticipated. If Jake Retzloff comes back, we could talk about next step, win the league.
And this is the thing, though, with this whole conversation, nobody cares about that. Nobody cares that we have a freshman quarterback, right? Because they look at teams that are on the top tier, whatever the case is. They always reload, right? Recruiting is great. They're top in when it comes to that. So there is no sympathy like Alabama and Georgia, these schools. I hate to say it, I'm just saying it because they're national, and blue bloods, but programs. But it's like nobody cares that they.
Right, but it does change things. If Quinn Ewers had suddenly transferred in July last year and they did throw Arch in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Arch Manning, but they're probably not going as far as they went because he's just a little young. Maybe they do. I don't know. There's a lot of Texas fans that feel that way. It is funny that they didn't dominate the Big 12, and then they go into the SEC, and they actually had a great year last year. They were awesome. It was crazy.
That's the NIL money starting to kick in.
Yeah. Well, it's even the playing field. Ask BYU men's basketball, too.